A nightmare that haunted Moscow, Idaho for 2.5 years came to an unexpected end. Bryan Kohberger, the criminology PhD student once poised to face the brutal facts of his alleged crime in an August trial, suddenly struck a plea deal with prosecutors. He agreed to plead guilty to the cold-blooded stabbing deaths of Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. In doing so, he avoided Idaho's death penalty, potentially by firing squad. And today, the convicted quadruple murderer had to face the judge and the friends and families of the victims for an emotional sentencing hearing.
Instead, I will call you what you are. Sociopath, psychopath, murderer.
We have it all, the latest from Idaho on what will likely be Bryan Kohberger's last day in court.
Good evening and welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Ted Rowlands, live outside of the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, Idaho, filling in for Vinnie tonight on Closing Arguments. And what a day we had in this courthouse behind us. The sentencing hearing for Bryan Kohberger. This is it for him, his last time, presumably, in a courtroom. The last time that the spotlight would be on him, but the spotlight today was really on the victims, all of the victims. And it was excruciating, I'm sure, for Bryan Kohberger. Kaylee, Batty, Xana, and Ethan were all remembered. And each one of them were celebrated with stories. Some were letters from grandmothers, others were family members that got up and spoke. And a lot of the emotions were heartbreak, really. The surviving roommates both spoke, one with a written statement, the other live in court. But every emotion actually came out today, including anger. Kaylee's sister, Aliva. Boy, oh boy, she took over that courtroom and she concentrated on the man that killed her sister, and she let him have it. We're going to listen to what she had to say, and her mother, Christy. The Goncalves family, of course, has been outspoken from the very beginning. One of the things we waited for, though, today was possibly an answer or two from the defendant. Would BK, as now we should start to call him, that's what the Goncalves family, Steve Goncalves says, we shouldn't even say this man's name anymore, but would BK say anything? Would he talk to the families? Would he give them more details? Well, he didn't, just as we thought. He said absolutely nothing. The hearing itself, watching it, just being here outside of the courthouse during the hearing, you could feel the emotion watching it through. Inside that courtroom, that was something else, another level. Our correspondent, Matt Johnson, was inside that courtroom. He joins us now. And let's start, Matt, with these impact statements. Just gut-wrenching.
Gut-wrenching impact statements, and then also, as you were mentioning, you know, the mood changed in the courtroom when we were waiting for that moment for the potential allocution for Bryan Kohberger to weigh in and possibly share a motive. He didn't, and instead, he just simply said this. Let's watch.
Does the defense have evidence to present today?
No evidence.
All right. Defense wish to make argument today.
Where we do not wish to make arguments, Mr. Kohberger, along with his legal team, is prepared for the court to enter judgment.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
I was in the gallery. I was seated right behind Kohberger's mother and sister. They were in tears. The mother was mouthing the words, "I love you," to her son. You know, for the most part, he was just very cold, calculated, robotic, paying attention to the victim impact statements. But, you know, he had an opportunity to share some remorse or to give some insight. And at the end of the day, we didn't hear any of that. And now he's off to prison.
And it was interesting, you know, the judge talked about that. We'll get into that in a little bit. But let's talk about what we did here today, and that was the raw emotion coming from these victim family members and loved ones.
Oh my God, people in the courtroom, they were, you know, passing around Kleenex boxes. You could hear people weeping. Behind me, they were just bursting into tears. I think that there were some fellow college students that made the drive from Moscow, because remember, this is a change of venue. We are at the Ada County Courthouse. But also these victim impact statements, you know, just bringing everybody to tears. And it was split because you had some people giving and offering forgiveness and love in a way, wanting answers. And then you had people that were very angry and lashing out. Here's some of those statements.
Instead, I will call you what you are. Sociopath, psychopath, murderer. I will ask the questions that reverberate violently in my own head, so loudly that I can't think straight most any day. Some of these might be familiar, so sit up straight when I talk to you. How was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words? The truth is, the scariest part about you is how painfully average you turned out to be. The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud. I see through you. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your ass. Thank you.
Thank you.
That happened a few times where there was an applause in the gallery from what so many people were feeling. And right there, you could hear her trying to provoke him to make that allocution statement to answer some of those questions, which he didn't do. He maintained his own control, right? But evil and coward were some of the words that were used quite a bit, and that brought out an applause from the gallery, and the judge allowed it. You know, there was no correction by the bailiffs.
Yeah, the judge himself had was really unique. What he said. A lot of times judges will hand down a sentence. They'll have a little something to say.
Well, this judge, you know, was under a lot of scrutiny and criticism for the plea deal in the first place, and he had explained how it came to be and how he couldn't deviate from state legislature and what he could sentence him at, right?
I mean, the President of the United States was imploring him
right,
to
and he
do things.
He couldn't. But the judge was also talking about the impact of the community, and he got a little bit emotional as well. Let's play some of that.
This unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss. No parent should ever have to bury their child. This is the greatest tragedy that can be inflicted upon a person. Parents who took their children to college in a truck filled with moving boxes had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins. The more we try to extract a reason, the more power and control we give to him. In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame. It's time that he be consigned to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration. I know there has been concern about him collaborating on books or movies or other media projects, and I truly hope that someone does not stoop to affording him this spotlight that he desires in the name of clicks, royalties, or profits.
You know, I think that really resonated with the room. You know, no more Kohberger, the spotlight's no longer on you. It really helped focus the shift here to the victims and the victims' families, which, you know, we've mentioned, it's really about them today.
Absolutely, because for them, it's been years of heartbreak and silence. They haven't been able to express themselves, especially in front of this monster, which they were able to do today. One of the things about this event, if you will, the plea, it has opened up now the end of the gag order. And we were told that it's going to be piecemeal, documents being released apparently. But today we did receive some of those first documents that have been unsealed.
And we have been going over them. So we are still waiting for the court to release some of the sealed documents, and that's going to be done piece by piece. It's going to be a trickle effect. But now we're also getting documents that were released from the Moscow Police Department, from boots on the ground, the initial investigation, and we're going through them. And I'm reading them for the first time along with you at home. So let's put this up on your screen as we go through this. And here's some of the things that really stood out to us. It includes this, the supplemental investigation report from the PD. This is what one detective said. I observed a female wearing a sweatshirt and underwear lying in the middle of a bedroom floor covered in blood. I observed deep lacerations indicative of defensive wounds on the female's hands. The female was surrounded by blood on the floor. I observed a male lying on the bed. The male appeared to have suffered from stab wounds and a laceration to the neck. The male was covered in blood and bleeding around him. The bedding around him was soaked in blood. Goes on to say this, the female lying on the left-hand side of the bed was, as I looked from the doorway, unrecognizable. Her face was completely disfigured and was stabbed several times. I was unable to comprehend exactly what I was looking at while trying to discern the nature of the injuries. The second female on the right half of the bed had multiple stab wounds. The comforter was soaked in blood and a pool of blood was still present. Goes on to say, I observed large footprints in the snow, meaning outside. I used tape measure and the shoe size measured approximately 13.5 to 14 inches. I mean, a lot of this, remember, this case was shrouded in secrecy for so long. This is shocking details, not only for all of us, but these family members that had to face this killer today.
Yeah, and it's going to be painful. As you mentioned, they're going to be trickling out and they will be reported. And for these families, it's going to be, just listening to that, it brings it back home to the butcher that this man is, and what he did is just disgusting. The other part of the equation is the investigators themselves. They did open up a little bit today.
Yeah, they opened up a little bit today. There was a news conference that was held inside the Ada County Courthouse that is here behind me, and we had a camera there. And what also stood out about that is, again, some of the family members were asked questions, because remember when we were hearing from Kaylee's family, they were alluding to that there was a second weapon that we had never heard about. Yeah. Family members were asked about that. That was one of the questions. And here's some of the other part of the conversation from earlier today. Let's watch.
We do know that another weapon was used on Kaylee. So we don't know what that weapon was, but
they didn't recover it.
Along with the knife was uncovered, but Kaylee was not just stabbed. There was other things that happened to Kaylee.
Was there any evidence that Kohberger was following the social media of any of the victims?
So, trust us, we wanted that to be the case. We've looked for a link, and we have not found one. Not one.
Yeah, through the entire investigation, I think that's something that we need, that you want, is to help to understand this and say, well, what's the connection? What was the link? And so we had every resource possible, and we worked that tirelessly, both from everything from his side, but all the victims and all the members of the House from their side. So we have never, to this date, found a single connection between him and any of the 4 victims or the 2 surviving roommates.
Let's talk about what happened today. We'll bring in tonight's think tank. Joining us here live in Boise, Idaho, Attorney John Pryor, who represented Chad Daybell. Also joining us, criminal defense attorney and former district attorney Matthew Mangino. He's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and David Schnepper. He's a former prosecutor as well, criminal defense attorney in Georgia. Let's start with you, John. Here, it was through the roof, the emotion. But as we talked about last night, you predicted it. Nothing from Kohberger. What were your overall thoughts about what we witnessed?
Well, there weren't any real surprises other than the young sister who was quite explicit in her description. I'm surprised it was really limited to just her. I was expecting other family members to be just as colorful.
Well, for people that maybe didn't see today, you had Kaylee's sister get up there, but then also after her sister, mother, Christy got up there too, and probably the line of the century in terms of this kind of scenario. She said to Bryan Kohberger, said, "You may have gotten A's in school, but you're going to get D's, big D's in the penitentiary," which of course is a bit lewd, but also it was that range of emotion. Matthew Mangino, what were your takeaways from today's sentencing hearing?
Well, I thought that the prosecution and the judge did a very effective job of making today about Ethan, Madison, Xana, and Kaylee's, and not Bryan Kohberger. And in fact, that was something that they contemplated when we talk about the elocution and his failure to make any statement or give any motive. And in fact, the court and prosecutors alluded to the fact that they didn't want to make this about him. They didn't want to make this about, what does Bryan Kohberger have to say? What did he do? Why did he do it? This was about the victims, and I think that was appropriate, and I think it was well thought out by both the prosecution and ultimately the judge when he made his statement and made it clear that there's nothing redeeming about Bryan Kohberger.
David, your thoughts?
My thoughts are, it's such a sad, sorry, tragic, and just awful, disturbing situation, and really just somber, just, seeing all this. But, I'm disappointed in the judge. I got to be honest. On July 2nd, everybody on this panel understands that any judge has the power to accept a negotiated plea or not. We've all probably been in court where the judge has not accepted a negotiated plea. And I understand today the judge cannot force Kohberger to talk, right? But I do feel that he could have, used his power as an honorable judge, which he's been a judge I think since 2013, where part of this to accepting his plea that he needed to say something or give some sort of reason of why he did this. That should have been part of the negotiation in my eyes. I am disappointed in the judge for that. Kohberger is an enigma. I think I think the sister was right on. A sociopath, a narcissist, a psychopath. That's who he is, and that's who he wants to be, and he's mysterious, and I think that, sadly, he's sort of controlled the narrative here.
Well, I think the judge tried to address that and explain that at the end of the day, what was Kohberger going to say? And why would anyone believe anything he said? That was part of what the judge said, because he did acknowledge that, and he was well aware of the criticism. All right, let's get a break. When we come back, we are going to have more of the victim impact statements from this very emotional day in the Ada County Courthouse. Plus, here is a look at what's coming up next hour on Vinnie Politan Investigates.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, today the man convicted of murdering 4 University of Idaho students sat in a courtroom while friends and family members of his victims delivered emotional statements before the court, were the victims honored at the sentencing hearing.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
2 parents face a jury
over the attempted murder of their own daughter. Court TV takes you inside the trial that's torn a family apart.
The attempted honor killing trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
Maddie was my only child that I ever had. She's the only great thing I ever really did, and the only thing I was really ever proud of. The last thing that she ever wrote to me was this Father's Day card, and I'm so glad I still have it. I'm just gonna read what she said. It says Happy Father's Day. I hope you have the best day. I can't wait till we can hang out again soon. I'll be in Coeur d'Alene, 6:24 to 7:4. Hopefully we can find a time then. I loved your birthday card that you sent me, by the way. Maybe we can see a concert sometime soon. I'd love to see the gorge when it's not so smoky out. I hope you're doing well. I'm proud of how far you've come. Thank you for always encouraging me to do my best. Love you lots and lots. Love, Maddie May.
That was Ben Mogen, the father of Madison Mogen, reading a letter that she sent him for Father's Day. That was all part of the sentencing hearing today that we witnessed in the courtroom behind me in Ada County, Idaho, in the city of Boise. It was all about the victims. Bryan Kohberger had a chance to speak. He didn't say a word, but there was a lot that was said by the family and friends of the 4 victims in this case, Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. Here's a look at some of the other victim impact statements that we witnessed.
I still think about this every day. Why me? Why did I get to live and not them? For the longest time, I could not even look at their families without feeling sick with guilt. I did not know what to say or what to do. I was terrified that my presence just made their pain worse. And I was still here when their kid, their siblings and their friends, their loved ones should have been here instead. After everything happened, I was afraid to go into my own backyard or alone in my house. I was scared that the person who did this would come for me next.
What happened that night changed everything. Because of him, 4 beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason. And then there are the panic attacks. The kind that slam into me like a tsunami out of nowhere. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't stop shaking. All I can do is scream because the emotional pain and the grief is too much to handle. He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil. He tried to take everything from me. My friends, my safety, my identity, my future. He took their lives, but I will continue trying to be like them, to make them proud. Living is how I honor them. Speaking today is to help me find some sort of justice for them. He may have taken so much from me, but he will never get to take my voice.
Today, we are here to finish what you started. Today, you've lost control. Today, we are here to prove to the world that you picked the wrong families. The wrong state, the wrong police officers, the wrong community. You tried to break our community apart. You tried to plant fear. You tried to divide us. You failed. Instead, your actions have united everyone in their disgust for you.
We will remain united with them. As for a sentence, we support the plea agreement. Society needs to be protected against this evil. As for the defendant, we will not waste our words, nor will we fall into hatred and bitterness. Evil has many faces, and we now know this, but evil does not deserve our time and attention. We are done being victims. We are taking back our lives.
You're nothing. May you continue to live your life in misery. You are officially the property of the state of Idaho, where your fellow inmates are anxiously awaiting your arrival. But it's okay, because they're there to help you. Hell will be waiting. Quick message from our youngest daughter. Aubrey wanted to say, you may have received A's in high school and college, but you're going to be getting big D's in prison.
Yet her story was cut short by an act of evil. I believe in a God whose justice is not bound by this courtroom. I find peace knowing that judgment ultimately belongs to Him. For your sake, I hope one day you feel the full weight of what you did. I hope you take accountability. I hope you truly experience the guilt and you surrender yourself to Jesus Christ.
You will stand before our Lord and will have to answer to Him over the sins you have committed in murdering our children. I pray you come to the end of yourself before that day. Whether you like it or not, heaven is for real and so is hell. The innocent life of Xana that you stole from myself and my family, and the destruction of this, and the destruction it has caused. I am washing my hands of you and turning you over to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, whom vengeance belongs to.
Still with us, Think Tank, John Pryor, David Schnipper, Matthew Mangino along with us. Matthew, the defendant in this case, BK as we'll call him, he didn't have any emotion, and now he has been diagnosed with a form of autism, Asperger's. You know, he's on the spectrum on some level, and it could just be his affect. But a lot of people were thinking, "Oh, what's he doing? Is he, he's trying to make a statement by, just sitting there in a death stare?" What was your take of him, despite having to listen to hours of emotional impact statements?
I wasn't impressed. I got the impression that we've heard, through those impact statements and from the judge, he's a coward. He's sitting there with no response, with no emotion. I thought the impact statements, the victim impact statements, were extraordinary. I mean, they covered so many different perspectives and really gave us a look at what the anguish that's involved in a situation like this. We heard anger. We heard about faith. We heard about forgiveness. And it really, is a testament to how the criminal justice system works, how people deal with loss, how they deal with trauma. And we saw it firsthand here. And I thought the way the proceeding went and the manner in which the impact statements were given, had a profound impact upon the community and the people who've been following this case.
David, in your experience, what do these opportunities have for victim family members? I mean, Ethan's family chose not to take part in this. That is another reaction. They hopefully spent the day out on the lake together, not thinking about this at all. And then you have the Goncalveses on one end, and as Matthew pointed out, sort of a mix. What, in your experience, do you believe this opportunity, at least, gives victims who go through so much?
Well, there's something called Marcy's Law, which most states have enacted, where victims and victims' families have a right to be heard. It's in statutes now. And you hit the nail right on the head. I think there was even an aunt of Xana Kernodle. He even forgave him and said something to the fact is, whenever you're ready to talk, I'm ready to hear, and the why. You had the conclaves on one end. You had Ethan Chapin's family didn't even want to attend, and it just shows you the differences in how each of the families, are dealing with this. But I think Matthew hit the nail on the head. I hate to put that there's a silver lining on anything with this, but it did seem to bring the community together. In the impact statements, I mean, it's the opposite of what Bryan Kohberger is. He has a lack of empathy. He doesn't feel any guilt. And I mean, any human being would be touched and just moved by all of this, and just, you know, feeling for these families in what they've gone through and what they're always going to go through, and just the entirety of just the tragedy of this. But it is, you know, Marsy's Law is a powerful tool, and it's great that the victims' impact statements are allowed to be heard.
John, Xana's aunt said, hey, if you wanted to reach out to me and tell me some details, I'd like to hear them. I have questions. Do you think you ever will?
I don't think in that context you ever will. I suspect after the reality sinks in for Mr. Kohberger, given what I know about the case, at some point he's going to want to bring some attention to himself, and that's what I think is going to happen. I think at some point he's going to wish that he could bring some more attention and that he could be in the limelight. And on Matthew and David's point, this was all about the families, and the focus was on the families. And Bryan Kohberger was basically there, and I'm thankful that the families got an opportunity to express themselves, and it was moving and touching.
It sure was, in so many different ways. Even the judge got emotional when he was addressing Bryan Kohberger. We'll get a break, and we'll hear from Judge Hippler when we return. Stay with us. You watch your closing arguments. Don't go anywhere.
I remand the defendant to the custody of the Idaho State Board of Corrections for to be imprisoned in an appropriate facility and execution of the sentence where he will remain until he dies.
Welcome back to Closing Arguments. I'm Ted Rowlands, filling in for Vinnie tonight. We're live outside of the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, Idaho, where today we watched the sentencing hearing for BK, as we'll now call him. That was Judge Stephen Hippler. And he didn't just lay out the sentence for everybody. He also had some words to say to the defendants. He acknowledged that there was some criticism about this deal. He talked about what people out in the public were asking for on some level, and that is some answers. He addressed a lot of different things. Here's a bit of the judge during today's sentencing hearing.
During the quiet morning hours of November 13, 2022, a faceless coward breached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people and senselessly slaughtered them, 4 of them. Who committed this unspeakable evil was unknown for several weeks, but due to the killer's incompetence and outstanding police work by numerous local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, the person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil, but we don't know, and what we may never know is why. I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why. But upon reflection, it seems to me, and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohberger relevance. We give him agency and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason, and that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave. Yet even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth? Do we really believe, after all of this, he's capable of speaking the truth or of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed? Rather, I suspect the so-called self-serving and aggrandizing untruthful bits, leaving people wanting more information, more insight, and thus enhancing even further the power he seeks to hold. Even if we could get truthful insight into his why, I suspect it would not in any way quench one's thirst for actually understanding why in the first instance. Because there is no reason for these crimes that could approach anything resembling rationality. No conceivable reason could make any sense. And in the end, the more we struggle to seek explanation for the unexplainable, the more we try to extract a reason, the more power and control we give to him. In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame. It's time that he be consigned to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration. I know there has been concern about him collaborating on books or movies or other media projects, and I truly hope that someone does not stoop to affording him this spotlight that he desires in the name of clicks, royalties, or profits. While criminal behavioralists should study him away from the spotlight in an attempt to prevent other would-be killers from acting on their worst impulses, there should be no need for that to spill over into the public eye. The great Idaho jurist Edward Lodge was known for trying to find something positive about every person he ever sentenced. And with over a half a century as a trial judge, that was a lot of people. This was often challenging, and I recall in one case he said that the best he could come up with was the defendant had good penmanship. Truth be told, I'm unable to come up with anything redeeming about Mr. Kohberger because his grotesque acts of evil have buried and hidden anything that might have been good or intrinsically human about him. His actions have made him the worst of the worst. Even in pleading guilty, he is giving nothing hinting of remorse or redemption, nothing suggesting even a recognition or understanding, let alone regret for the pain that he has caused. And therefore, I will not attempt to speak about him further, other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society.
John Pryor, David Schnipper, and Matthew Mangino still with us. John, you know this judge, you've been before him. Have you ever seen a judge break down? He got a little emotional there during a sentencing hearing.
Well, if we listen to the words that Judge Hippler used, he was very insightful, and those of us who are fortunate enough to practice with him recognize that he's an amazing judge, and Ada County's blessed to have Judge Hippler in this county. Very insightful, but he was emotional, and can you blame him for being emotional? I mean, a tragic situation, and simply the slaughter and murder of four very innocent teenagers, and I don't blame him or even fault him, but very insightful, very insightful.
Indeed. David Schnipper, why is this case so emotional for so many?
Just, for young college-age kids, everybody can relate to them, right? I mean, most of us, the majority, can relate being in college and that time of your life. What an exciting time that is. The best years of our life. And I think we can relate to them, and we can relate to what the just the disgustingness, that the tragedy, that what if something like that happened. But it's just words just can't describe just the awfulness and the tragedy. But I want to go a step further. In Idaho is one of 27 states that still has a death penalty. They actually enacted the firing squad a couple of years ago. I am disappointed in the district attorney's office there that they agreed to this plea. I wish the judge didn't accept it on July 2nd. I would have loved to have seen Bryan Kohberger. We don't need to study him. He needs to be extinguished from this earth, and those families deserve that. And that's all I have to say about that. It's a tragedy. It's sad, and God bless to the families and friends of the victims.
Matthew Mangino, that is a question people have, is if you're going to have a state with the death penalty, this guy is the poster boy for it. In fact, Judge Hippler said you are the worst of the worst. Put your prosecutor hat on. What went into this decision, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, the death penalty has been proposed as being used for the worst of the worst. And that's interesting that he would say that. And that is why we have a death penalty in 27 states in this country. There's a lot of factors that go into it. You take in consideration victims' positions. You take into consideration, is this going to make some sort of martyr or star out of Bryan Kohberger. You certainly don't want to do that. There are people, unfortunately, who follow him and are interested in him, and you want to extinguish that. The other thing is, though, I think that the point is take the attention away from him. And I think the line that's going to stick with me is when Judge Hippler said that, you're consigned to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration. You're forgotten. You're gone. You're pushed aside. You're no longer an issue for these families. There's not going to be endless appeals. You're now just a memory.
John, this we had talked about that line too from Judge Hippler, the perpetual incarceration. It really did stand out. At the end of the day, the families were split. What's your take on this deal?
Well, we don't know the background on all of the evidence, and we're still waiting. And I think we spoke about that yesterday, that it's going to take some time for all the evidence to come out. And we really won't have a true understanding as to why this deal was cut. Did it surprise me? It shocked me. It shocked me that the prosecutor cut this deal. I think that until we see all the evidence and we see some of the background information, we'll have a better understanding. And I have a suspicion that part of the negotiation was that Mr. Kohberger wouldn't have to say anything. And I think that may be part of what was negotiated back then, and that's why we didn't hear from him. So I guess hopefully we'll find the answers to that in the near future.
John Pryor, thank you. David Schnipper, Matthew Mangino, thank you as well. We're going to get a break when we come back. Something else you need to know, plus what's ahead next hour on VPI.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, Bryan Kohberger was a Washington State University PhD student focused on criminology when he stabbed 4 college students to death in the middle of the night. Now, he's going to spend the rest of his life behind bars. What will prison life be like for Bryan Kohberger?
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
2 parents face a jury
Over the attempted murder of their own daughter. Court TV takes you inside the trial that's torn a family apart.
The attempted honor killing trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time for something you need to know here on Closing Arguments. William McNeil Jr. If you've seen the viral video of the traffic stop that took place in Jacksonville, Florida, it's jarring. He gets his windshield or his driver's side window knocked out. Then you see a punch coming in from officers. He gets then dragged out of the car and roughed up. Well, Mr. McNeil held a press conference today in Jacksonville. Here is a bit of what he had to say.
First of all, I want to thank God for bringing everybody here together, and thank y'all for supporting me. That day, I just really wanted to know, why I was getting pulled over and why I needed to step out the car when I know I didn't do nothing wrong. I was really just scared. And that's it.
Sometimes that interferes with the
That William McNeil Jr. Holding that press conference with his attorney Benjamin Crump today in Jacksonville. Before we go tonight, we want you to take a look at the screen and try to help us find this young woman, Kelsi Curtis. She's been missing since July 22nd of 2025, just recently. Tulsa, Oklahoma. She's only 16 years old. If you know of Kelsi's whereabouts, please call the Tulsa Police Department or call 911 or 1-800-THE-LOST. That's it for us closing arguments. Don't go anywhere, though. We have another live hour of true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next.